Hey cinephiles, welcome back to another Movie Clips review. I'm JS.
And I'm Zach.
And today we're talking about Enemy, the newest film by director Denis Villeneuve.
And what a trip, right?
Yes. And yeah, this is actually his second movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm sure a lot of you saw Prisoners last year. That was their previous project together.
And I mean, I assume you're a fan of Prisoners because I just can't imagine anybody not liking that
Yeah,
movie.
no, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
It definitely is. But as good as Prisoners is, I actually feel Enemy is the better film, and we'll maybe get into that. Are you...
I'm a fan of Enemy.
Okay.
I don't think it's as good as Prisoners,
All right,
but
interesting. Okay.
it's a very interesting choice, a very interesting follow-up to Prisoners.
So
I respect that.
because a lot of you probably haven't seen Enemy yet, we're going to do our best to avoid spoiler territory, which is kind of difficult with a film like this.
Yeah.
Enemy...
Not to interrupt you, it is available on DirecTV right now, on demand, because it doesn't come out in theaters for another month.
Yeah, I think it'll open in just New York and LA next month, so it's going to get a very limited theatrical release.
So check it out if you have that.
Enemy begins with this quote about chaos, which I think is very apt for this film because it's talking about when there's no order to things. That is what you have. And so Enemy gets into a very dark place from the get-go, and then it goes back and shows us how we get there. Jake Gyllenhaal, he plays a professor at a university, he teaches history, and actually talks about chaos in some of his lectures. And he stumbles upon a movie in which he finds an extra who looks just like him, like a spitting image of him, like it could be an identical twin or something. And I thought that was interesting because it's like the first time in a movie where I'm like, hey, IMDb could actually really move the plot along. Had he only known about that website, he could have done some investigation work pretty quick.
That might have sealed up some plot points. But
yeah, and so he goes out to basically find his double. But I would say that Enemy really captures this vibe that I haven't really seen or felt since Kubrick. And his last movie, Eyes Wide Shut, is something I kept thinking about during Enemy. For a couple of reasons. Yeah, it does go to some of these strange cult or exclusive clubbish settings, but yet it also is someone who's like stuck in the middle of a mystery that is really all-encompassing in their life, and yet they really don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I found, like what you were saying with Kubrick, it reminded me a lot of a David Fincher film, The Game.
Okay.
And you can watch probably the first 20 minutes of Enemy, and you can almost say, hey, is this a Fincher film? Like the way it's lit, the story, because we've seen Jake Gyllenhaal in Zodiac, which was directed by Fincher, and then we were also saying it reminded you a lot of Mulholland Drive, which I agree with a lot. That's another good film that fits in with it. Yeah,
I mean, anytime you start to say this reminds me of this director, and once it gets to more than two, that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah.
So this director very much has his own style, though it is radically different than Prisoners from last year. The camera movements are very subtle for the most part, but there's also some just amazing shots going on here.
And I think it's a brave choice because he could have gone the other route and probably had a $80 million picture being made in the next year or two, but he went the smaller personal project route. And from what we've read in interviews, he actually told Jake Gyllenhaal, "I can't make another movie until I make this one." It was eating at him, and that's pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, and it is a very small movie. I mean, it's set in Ontario, and we get a lot of the cityscapes, but it feels like no one is inhabiting this place. And I would say there's probably 12 people with speaking lines in the entire movie, if that. So yeah, it does feel like a very strange, intimate film, but because of that, I feel it's all the more affecting because of what it's trying to get at and the mystery.
Yeah. And as a thriller, it works really well. The camera work, he had Roger Deakins as a cinematographer on Prisoners, and in this film he didn't use Deakins, but I mean the camera work's just amazing. And there's a few scenes in particular that the images will kind of resonate with you forever because I mean we watched it last week and I'm still trying to shake them.
Yeah, the last scene, the last shot in this movie is legendary. I wish we could talk more about it. I'll say that this is up there for my favorite movies of 2014. We're very early in the year, but I think I'm gonna remember this months down the line.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's gonna make a lot of people's top 10 lists for sure.
All right. Well, if you have seen Enemy, let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. Be wary about spoilers for those who haven't seen it. Until next time, I'm JS.
And I'm Zach.
Thanks for watching.